Thank you and hello everyone. So yeah, as said, my name is Julie Sponi and I work at the European Patients Forum. So for those who don't know the European Patients Forum, it's representing patient organizations at EU level. So our members are disease-specific patient organizations at EU level and national umbrella patient organizations. And we have 79 members, including AGORA or the Malta Health Network, for instance. And today I will give you a presentation about health technology assessment and why it matters to patients. So health technology assessment, I will say HTA for the sake of brevity. But before starting my presentation, I have two questions to ask you. So please raise your hands if you have ever heard of HTA or health technology assessment. Okay, good. My second question is, can you explain what is HTA? And if so, please raise your hand. Okay. Not so bad, not so bad. I thought no one would raise your hand because, I mean, it took me 5 months to understand what's HTA, and I only have 15 minutes today to guide you through HTA, so I hope I will provide you some clarity on it. But before, let's start with the definition of health technology so we are all on the same page. So what is a health technology? A health technology refers to any aspect of healthcare, such as diagnostic tests and treatment methods, medical equipment and devices, pharmaceuticals, rehabilitation and prevention programs, or organizational and supportive procedures. And HTA is the evaluation of the added value of a new health technology in comparison to existing technologies or current standard of care. So it will ask questions like, is this new medicine better to treat a certain disease, or is this new medical devices resulting in a better diagnosis or treatment? And usually HTA comes after the authorization of a medicine or a medical devices. And it has two aims. The first aim is to provide evidence-based information to policymakers so they can formulate health policies. And the second aim is to provide and inform national authorities for the reimbursement process. So the information gathered during the HTA process will inform national authorities on whether they should reimburse or not a health technology. And health technology assessment is looking at two different domains. So the first domain is clinical domains. So HTA will look at whether it will look at the relative clinical effectiveness of a new health technology, for instance, or the relative safety. But it also looks at non-clinical domains, such as the societal, legal, organizational, ethical, and economical aspects of a health technology. It will ask questions like, what is the economic impact of using this new health technology? Will it have societal consequences? So this is a broad overview of what is HTA, but now you may be wondering, why does it matter to patients and to the patient community? And this is very clear, and in three important reasons. The first one is that patients are the ultimate users of health technologies, because at the end of the day, it is the patient that is taking the medicines that have been through this process. The second reason is that the decision taken on the availability and reimbursement of technologies have an impact on access to high-quality healthcare. And the third, but definitely not the last reason, is that HTA can prevent the funding of technologies with limited or no added values to patients. This is why patient involvement, meaningful and mandatory patient involvement is needed to ensure that this HTA process targets patient needs. And it corresponds to the saying, nothing about us without us. And it's not only because patient involvement in HTA improve the democratization process of HTA, because as you may already know and may be guessing, involvement of patients will improve transparency, credibility, and accountability of the HTA process. But this is not the main reason why patient involvement is crucial. I guess one of the main reasons is that patient input is crucial to contribute to robust evidence in HTA process, because patients have a unique experience and knowledge about their disease. Who knows best than them the treatment burden, the burden of the treatment, the burden of the disease, and the user experience? Let me give you a practical example. As I said, HTA looks at the non-clinical domains, so it assesses the wider impact of a health technology and we can't analyze the social and economic factors only from a clinical and academic standpoints, because we are going to look at things such as the affordability, the adherence, the use of a technology, and we need patient input to be able to assess the impact of this health technology. Now that I told you that how important it is to involve patients, let's look at the reality on the ground and how HTA looks like in Europe. So in Europe, HTA is in the hands of 27 member states. So we have 27 different processes, similar processes repeated in each member states with different timeframes and different ways of involving patients. For instance, in Romania or in Italy, patient participation is basically non-existent. Whereas in Germany, patients are involved at all levels of HTA. They are involved in all subgroups of the national HTA bodies in Germany. And despite HTA being a national process, we have seen some collaboration at EU level. So we have seen member states coming together to try to have a joint work on HTA. And it started in 2006 with the creation of the European Network for Health and Technology, also known as UNETA. I don't know if it rings a bell for some of you, but it has been going on for some years. And it's a voluntary cooperation where member states try to have a standardization of the different processes. But because it's voluntary, it has had limited impact, because national HTA bodies would not use what was made within this network, and it led to duplication of work. But this voluntary cooperation is going to turn into a mandatory cooperation, because in 2021, the EU HTA regulation was adopted, and it will enter into force in 2025. And I will now walk you through why this regulation is important and definitely why it is important for patients. So first, let's start with the basic of the EU HTA regulation, and I hope it will be interesting. I know EU regulations are usually not that interesting, but this one is definitely important. So this regulation aims to make cooperation, to make joint work mandatory on clinical aspects of HTA. In other words, it means that member states will now only have one process to assess the clinical aspects of a health technology. But the non-clinical domains of HTA, such as the economic impact, the societal aspects of health technology, will remain the responsibility of member states. So, in other words, member states will only work on the clinical aspects of new health technologies. And in addition to this joint work, the regulation foresees other areas of cooperation. So member states will cooperate on the clinical aspects, as I said, but they will also cooperate on giving scientific advice to health technology developers. They will also cooperate on identifying emerging health technologies, which patient organizations are already doing. I can give you a very concrete example. The AIDS HIV community in the 90s were already targeting and spotting which medicines will come into the market to be sure that it will be under their radar and that it will be known by countries. And the last but not least area of cooperation would be a voluntary one. Like member states will be able to cooperate on economical aspects of new health technology, for instance. But why is it important for patients? Remember that I said that HTA in Europe, patients are basically not really involved, apart in some countries. But with this new regulation, patients will be involved in HTA at EU level. So you see on the screen a very technical table, but just to summarize, the regulation foresees patient involvement in two ways. So we will have individual patients providing input in the assessment of the clinical aspects of a new health technology. Individual patients will also provide input in the scientific advice given to health technology developers. The other way of involving patients will be through patient organizations, because patient organizations will have a voice in this regulation. They will be represented in the stakeholder network, of which EPF is already a member, and this stakeholder network will inform the joint work. But as you can see on the screen, and maybe by my presentation, it is still very obscure. It's because the what, when, where, and how of patient involvement is yet to be defined. The Commission, the European Commission, has not defined the technicalities of patient involvement. So there's many questions that are still unaddressed, such as what kind of patients can be involved, what will constitute a conflict of interest, will patients be paid or not? And there are many questions that will be defined in the next months. And this is why with EPF, with the European Patients Forum, we are doing advocacy activities towards the European Commission to be sure that the reality on the ground is reflected in this regulation. Because if I can speak frankly, the vision of the European Commission about what kind of patients can be involved is a perfect patient that doesn't exist. So we need to make sure that we have a regulation that will work and that will work for patients. And in addition to doing advocacy activities to be sure that the implementation goes well, we are also preparing the patient community, because as we saw in the room, not so many people are aware of HTA. So we need to raise awareness of what is HTA and why is it so important to be involved. And we are doing this through the EU-funded project, which is called European Capacity Building for Patients, UCAPA, another acronyms. We love acronyms in Brussels. And this project is providing training programs for patients. So it will provide them with knowledge and skills to be able to contribute in this regulation and in the HTA at EU level. And voila, this is the end of my presentation, and I hope it was clear and it gave you a bit more clarity and understanding of what is HTA. And if not, no worries, it took me 5 months to understand it.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions? No? I have a question.
Okay.
It's interesting about this program that you talked, EU CAPA. So does that mean that you will train patients from your different members so that they are trained on HTA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's still in development. We have just started the program, but it will be online courses, so trainings, videos, okay, and also in-person activities. And I didn't specify it in my presentation, but first HTA at EU level will be for oncology drugs, and then afterward, and advanced medicine therapies. Afterwards, it will be orphan drugs, and then it will be all medicines. So I assume this project will first target the cancer patient community, and then it will involve more and more patients. But first, it will be targeting patients.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I followed during the years quite a few programs of EPF, and they are, of course, very good at empowering and educating patients. Thank you very much. Yes, Elsa.
Hi. I was just wondering, does EPF has any connection with your party? Because your party is now also developing the HTA for patients program. Is that the one you're mentioning?
No, so the one I'm mentioning is UCAPA, but yeah, we are in touch with UPATI and the HTA for patients. So I know on paper it looks like it's two similar projects, but we are in direct contact and it will be complementary programs. So we don't repeat the process twice.
So
and
they are
yeah,
complementary
yes,
and not the same.
yeah, not the same.
Any more questions for Julie? I'm pronouncing it rightly now. Not Julie, Julie. Yes.
You've mentioned that the EU has not had a basis yet of which, where, why, etc. So EPF, what type of basis is it using at the moment? The baseline. What is the baseline you're using?
So yes, there's no baseline, and the Commission has not defined how it will work in practice, but we have some experience with involving patients in HTA, because as I said, at EU level, because as I said, there has been some cooperation already at EU level, and we, as EPF, we have been involved in those cooperation. So we can already use this experience, but of course, with a regulation, it's going to be a bit different. So what we are foreseeing now and what we are planning is to do a simulation of patient involvement. So we're going to do it in November with some of our members to see how it will work. And then we will go back to the Commission and say, okay, this doesn't work, this works, and this is how you should do it. And we will hope they will listen to us.
So you will also be advocating in this
Yes,
sense?
yeah. And we are already doing it. We are in regular contacts with people working at the Commission on HTA, and we are telling them, this won't work, you won't find any patients. Like, to give you a practical example, there is a big debate about what constitutes a conflict of interest. And for instance, a patient that is a member of a patient organization receiving more than 40% of funding from industry will not be able to contribute. But conflict of interest doesn't necessarily arise from having industry funding. If you have a diversity of funding, you are independent and you don't have any conflict of interest. So there's like this subtleties that is missing in the thinking of the Commission at the moment, and we are trying to push for them, if that makes sense.
Thank you. One last question. Do all the members, because you mentioned something at the beginning, do all the members have an HTA body? All member states? All of them?
All of them, and sometimes it's not only one HTA body. For instance, in Germany, it's two different HTA bodies. So there's one body doing the assessment, and then another body doing the appraisal of the health technology. So this is very complex, and it's not harmonized across member states. But yes, all member states have a HTA process.
Thank you very much, Julie. Any more questions? No. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce a person whom you all know.
1 minute.
Okay. Just 1 minute because we're running out of time. So a person whom you all know, Andrei Foka, who is the president of the Cyprus League for People with Rheumatism and president of AGORA, chair of AGORA. And she's going to talk about the importance of patient experts.
So, hello, everybody. Thank you, Susie, for your kind words. I will talk you about the patient expert program that we are running in Cyprus at the Cyprus League of People with Rheumatism. The reason is why by this program we have a lot of important good things. It's not one. It's not good for only one reason. So, benefits, yes, thank you. Thank you, Susie. It's not moving this.
The slide before or this one?
Okay, because yesterday it was with.
Yeah, you can. It works this way.
Okay, thank you. So, who is CYLPER's patient expert? The patient expert program that is run by CYLPER was invented by Kate Lorridge, who was a nurse, and also she was a patient of Gaucher diseases. And she was a professor in Stanford University. In 1986, she was at Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, and she found out that the doctors couldn't realize what are the barriers to be a person with a chronic illness, and especially if you had disability on your hands. So she started writing this program, and she get it into the Texas University. In 1995, she brought it to the Europe. And in 2004, the Sweden Rheumatica Liga bring it to Swedish people, and they are running till 2004. So who is the patient expert? It's a special trained people who have been empowered with skills, confidence, and knowledge needed to play an active role in teaching other patients, healthcare professionals, med students, and they make decisions about their own health and care and manage of their chronic condition. They teach the techniques of examining joints in rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis and using their own hands and joints, explain the difference between RA and OA, provide information about the typical symptoms of RA and OA and their disease, shares his personal experience as a patient, develop an expertise on their own chronic condition by living with it, obtaining knowledge from a wide variety of sources, courses, and from the support they receive and got from significant others in their lives. They recognize that they didn't always have expertise in the clinical aspect of their condition, but they did have expertise in their own condition. They improve their self-confidence, and they are able to deal with the impact of chronic disease. So why is the program important? The patient involvement in the education of health professionals is increasing in Cyprus the last 10 years. So it was a huge interest from especially the governmental medical university to have a patient to talk to the students. So as CYPLAR is collaborate a lot with universities, we found out that we should make this program in Cyprus. So we start searching where we can find this kind of training. The aim of the program is to help medical students, doctors, and other healthcare staff to recognize early symptoms for undetected RA or OA, to promote increased knowledge and skills regarding RA, even when the illness has developed into a more inflammatory or active phase, to create a better understanding of what it means to live with RA, and to assure patients' position in healthcare. By the last one, I want to say that when the patient organizations are dealing with the universities, the medical universities, we can have some very positive impacts because the government are reacting better to us when we are talking with them regarding treatments and clinics and all the medicine area. So in 2016, we found out that the Swedish organization has this program, and we asked for a fund from the knowledge transfer program, and we get it. And we train 9 patient experts and 2 trainees. In 2018, the first patient expert program was established in Cyprus, and we start with the Medical School of University of Cyprus. The training has a lot of areas. We have a trainer leader, and by a lot of programs we have in the league, we approach some candidates that we believe they are interested and they have the skills to be patient expert. The training lasts around 6 months, and it's for 6 or 7 meetings. It's 1 meeting per month. And we are giving them a manual, and they have to learn a lot of interesting things by the manual. Then we have a test, and we evaluate trainers, and we evaluate trainees also. But we are facing some difficulties. The difficulties we are facing usually is to find the perfect people to be trained, because they have to have time in order to visit the medical schools. They need around 2 hours for the training in the medical schools, plus 1 hour or more to travel to the medical schools. The other difficult that we faced is the funding, because people, in order to go and talk to students, they have some expenses, but we don't have the funds to reimburse them, and it's another barrier. The medical universities, they are not willing to support us economically. They are only willing to teach them, but they are not willing to support us. So the teaching includes a personal presentation, anatomical terms and the anatomy of the hand and the wrist, inspection of the hand and the wrist, palpation, again the hand and the wrist, assessment of range of motion, and defining the function of the person. In addition, we are talking a lot for the early day barriers, and especially for the way that the doctor must approach the patient, how they must talk to the patient, and how to have the patient perception above everything. And usually we are seeing the medical students telling us that nobody talk to them to the whole studies about the patient perception and how they should talk to the patients. So we have some benefits for the students. The benefits are acquire knowledge about rheumatic diseases, learn to empathize with patients, understand how the disease affects the patients, improve communication skills, develop rapport with the patient. And for patients, we have the early recognition and diagnosis, the increase and improvement of knowledge and skills, better understanding of patient and patient life, and strengthening the position of the patient in healthcare. So, how we established the first time in the program to the medical school of Cyprus, we approached them, and they demand from us a demonstration at the beginning in order to take it to the curriculum board to approve it. It was not a very easy thing to do, but we managed because we had help from the rheumatology professional of the university. And how we teach the students. We teach them on the 4th year of studies. Usually we have 5 to 6 students with us. It takes us 2 hours. We make a conversation with them, and at the end, we have a questionnaire that they have to assess the trainer. And on the assessment, we have also some questions regarding what do they expected from the training and what did they get. So some words from these assessments was the most important was the patient perception and the doctor approach. Others says an awesome presentation help us to improve my empathy as a doctor and at what things I must be careful during the appointment. I realized that I have to pay attention on the barriers and the patient needs. I wish to face the patients with the most patient-centered care way. So you can see that students are telling us that they need this. And on a question of, did you find this training important to your student life? It was 100% up to now. The answer was yes. So what we have done more about this program, up to 2023, we have 30 patient expert demonstrations in UCY. In 2019, CyPlayer patient expert program was taught on a nurse education program for RMDs of the Nurse Services of the Republic of Cyprus. In 2023, we have again the nurse education program, and this time they ask us to be for more time with them in order to demonstrate it. In 2020, we had a poster abstract on ACR governance with the title Curricular Implementation of the Rheumatic Disease Patient Expert Program, the Student's Perspective. The author was Elena Sophocleous, who was a medical student at that time, and Dr. Konstantinos Parperi is the professor of the Department of Rheumatology in the university. And of course, me, I contribute as the leader of the program. And in 2021, it was published at the Annals of Rheumatic Diseases magazine. In 2022 to 2023, we teach the same program to our friends on ARAM in Malta. And I am wishing them to have the same succession as we have. So, what are our next steps? This year, and we will start in November actually, we are starting a new collaboration with the University of Nicosia for the physiotherapy studies and nurse studies departments. So we are expanding it to the healthcare professionals. We are on discussions with the Cyprus Technological Institute to implement it on the program of the nurse studies. And we are having a new group of patients learning the program. And now we will do it again, the knowledge transfer program, with Eleana, the Greek organization in Greece. So this is all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Andri. Questions? Yes, Mikhail.
Of course.
As usual. I'm surprised. It's really great thing to do. And they're all volunteers, right?
Yes.
And did you do knowledge transfer
Yes.
with a couple of other countries?
Yes, we have done with Malta. At the beginning, we make the knowledge transfer. We were the applicants, and the Swedish organization teach it to us, and then Malta was the applicant, and we teach it, and now we will have it with Greece.
Okay, and when you're doing this transferable program, how much do you need the applications to be in Cyprus with you? A week, 2 weeks, 2 days?
No, it's only they are coming for 4 days, let's say, and we are giving all the knowledge that we have, and then we are giving also the manual, which is translated in English, and the patient organization can translate it in their language. Or like Malta, because most of them are speaking English, they let it like this, and they adopt it in their country. Then they have to, the 2-3 people that are coming, they have to learn the manual, and when we are going to their country for our visit, we have to examine them that they know the anatomy and the examination of wrist and hand. Because it's very important to have the anatomy, to know the anatomy. A trainer has to know the anatomy of the wrist and hand. And now we will make also a new training about the hip and knee. But the reason that the anatomy must be known is that is give self-confidence to the trainer, but also is give to the medical students the perception that I have a person in front of me that he knows for what he's talking about.
Thank you.
I was going to ask why only wrist and hand?
Because usually RMDs, most of RMDs are having the hands. The examination, we are having examination on our hands. Either you have a RA or not, okay? And it was the most, it's the most, RA is the most common, yes, thank you, Chris. It's the most common disease. The majority of RMDs is with RA. And but we are giving a lot of about patient life and how much barriers we have in our life as a chronic patients.
Do you consider expanding this for other diseases like axial SpA or lupus, or it's too complicated?
Okay, we are thinking, as I said before, we will expand it on the hip and knee, because hip and knee, it's easy and it's easy examination. And we are thinking also other type of diseases, like scleroderma and Raynaud and Sjogren's that are another kind. But we need help from professionals in order to have all the knowledge. And this is the difficult part, not to expand it, but to find people specialized to help us.
And another question.
Last question,
Yes.
please.
Yes, you said that you have help from professionals, I mean rheumatologists.
Yeah.
Was it easy to have this support? Because
We
when
have-
we talk about medical terms, about medical stuff, doctors are always just like that.
Yeah.
You are not doctors.
During the training, we have one day with a doctor and talking to us, and we have also one day with communication skills instructor in order to give us the knowledge of how to talk to the students and how to approach them, because we have elderly patient experts and they need to approach youngs. So we make also this kind of training.
Thank you, Andre. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Elsa Mateus, who is the president of the Portuguese League Against Rheumatism and vice president of EULAR PARE, and also a UPATI fellow. And she's going to talk on advocacy.
Yeah. No, thank you. Hi, everyone. I think you can see me. Thank you for introducing me. I've shortened my presentation in order to get to the point and have more time to discuss. So I was invited to talk about advocacy. I organized my presentation around these concepts, how to be catalyst or proactive, opportunities and reactive, and I will provide some examples. Some years ago, when I started to organize events and try to disseminate the concept of patient advocacy, I looked for some definitions, and this was from World Hepatitis Alliance, I believe, and I think it's still a good definition. So advocacy is the concept, typically describes a political process or series of actions by an individual or group which aims to influence decisions within political, economic, and social systems and institutions. Advocacy activities include media campaigns, public speaking, and commission and publishing research or providing expert witness as part of legal process and lobbying. And here you have some examples of advocacy actions, but at the end, I think maybe we all share the same problem as a Southern European countries. Because advocacy, it's a nice word in English, but when we try to translate it into our national language, sometimes it's weird because it comes literally as the lawyer's function related with law and legal processes. So it's not easy at the national level to talk about advocacy, but at least we know what is the concept and what we should do. And there are also some other aims of advocacy, and usually it promotes people's rights and helping them maintain control over their own lives, promotes social inclusion and raising awareness of the obstacles faced by excluded and isolated individuals, involving and empowering people to speak for themselves and for people who are unable to speak for themselves, and helping people to explore the range of options open to them and clarifying a particular course of action. So I think this translates what advocacy is, or patient advocacy is, but we also need to have in mind some other concepts. Because for a patient organization to have a role in advocacy, because of course it should be one of our goals and our roles. We need also to be aware of different concepts of patients and patients involved in advocacy. For instance, we have this definition comes from the EPFIA Code of Practice for relationships with patients. And EPFIA is the European Federation for Pharmaceutical Industry, for short. So patient advocates, for me, the main difference between these three concepts is that the patient advocate is a person that may not be a member or an active member of a patient organization. They can be acting on their own, not related, not a member of a patient organization. Because it's quite similar, the definition of patient advocates with patient organization representatives. These are persons who are mandated to represent and express the collective views of the patient organization on a specific issue or disease area. And then you have the patient experts. Andrew just told us, just show us some of the expertise that patients may have. It's a new role on contributing to medical learning. But we also have the patient experts that have some technical knowledge and are in R&D and or regulatory affairs, and why not also in providing training for other health professionals or medical students or experience. So when your organization decides to enroll in advocacy, you need to know who you will place in which role with which task. Like Raj yesterday when we were talking about strategic planning, and also this is all connected. So you need to know the best person to fit that role. Any questions? Feel free to interrupt me. So, taking what Raj was telling yesterday about being catalyst and also proactive. In my view and from my experience from my own organization, for this you should have a policy officer or someone dedicated to policy, to know your politicians, know the decision makers, because otherwise you will not be effective. Of course, to do this, to promote your own advocacy, you establish your own aim. You know that we all have this goal of improving the patient's life and so on. But if you have this goal, you need to work this thing properly. So you should have a policy officer. Anyone, any organization here has a policy officer? Someone dedicated just to decision makers, to know the politicians? Of course, no. I don't have it too. And therefore you also need to have, to do this, to promote your own advocacy, to raise your voice from your cause, you also need to have a communication strategy and a communication plan, because this all comes with different steps of lobbying. And of course you need to have data and information to support your cause. So, this is what we need to have if we want to be your own proactive, if you want to do yourself to raise your point. Otherwise, and this is what is more easy to do, is to take the opportunities and be reactive. You take advantage of your network and collaboration and alliances. And I will provide you some examples. I will skip the order. For instance, in Portugal, with the COVID vaccination process, there was a task force nominated to coordinate all the vaccination, and then they finally invited 4 patient organizations to be members of this task force. And we were able, since we were representing all RMDs, to be one of the members of this task force, together with cancer, pulmonary diseases, and diabetes. So we were able to put up front the priority of getting COVID vaccination to our community. But this was a reaction. It came from the network and raising your voice and, well, I can represent all RMDs, so maybe I can join instead of just RA or AXPA or lupus. So in this worked. And following this, and I'll go back to this point later on. So sometimes it's getting advantage of your alliances, of your network, of other patient organizations, other diseases areas, and come together and put yourself, also take the opportunity and make yourself heard and represent your community. Some examples. Yeah, you can see here at the European level, for instance, and those two are from the same area, same time. We took advantage of of being the host of the EULAR PARE conference in 2017, and we applied for the engagement program, and we organized this event in the Public Assembly of Republic Assembly, the government house, and we invited all the politicians, and we were discussing and raising awareness and advocating for early referral and early diagnosis and more rheumatologists under the National Health Service. We were able to have a bit of improvement after that. So it's again taking advantage of your network, of the opportunity, in trying to have some advocacy work in relation. This other picture, for me, it's a very embarrassing case, and I will explain why I say this. This was taken at I think the last EULAR Brussels conference in 2019, and this conference was organized with all this setup to raise awareness also among European politicians, MPs, and then to have some connection between the European Parliament and also the national politicians. And by chance, because I was not briefed, one of the invited MPs was this politician at the time. He was a European MP, and I didn't have any chance before, or I just found out when I was sitting at the system, oh, that's Portuguese. The politician, guess what? He's now our Ministry of Health. And every time I think about this, I had an opportunity. If I have been briefed that he was going to be there, I could have a chance to promote a little bit better and to work on an advocacy level. And I missed the chance because this is what I had, a picture. And now is the Ministry of Health. I've been with him several times afterwards, but I missed the opportunity here. Another example of taking the opportunity is, for instance, this new project. We all know that osteoarthritis is one of the highest prevalence RMDs, I believe, in Europe and also like in your countries. And 2 years ago, I was invited to become a member of this NET-OARC, which is a network established by a cost initiative to promote the building of the European Society for Osteoarthritis. So I joined there. And by the way, they are still looking for partners in the red countries. So if you have any interest, try and find more about the initiative, because I think it's a good way also to advocate for patients with osteoarthritis. But you need to take the opportunity. It was not planned, it just came around. And for instance, to provide an example, there are 4 working groups. One is for patient information and patient education. And the other one, they have 2 others. And then there is this one about building the patient, the European Society. And I sometimes struggle because I'm on this last one, around building the European society. And sometimes I struggle with myself, should I be in working group 1 because it's patient information, patient education? And then I think, no, I should be here in this working group to make sure that patients' organizations I am there advocating also for patients' organizations to be involved there as members, as partners. So it's also a different way to advocate. And to finalize, again, to some topics of advocacy. For instance, regarding vaccination, when I was talking about that task force regarding COVID vaccination, we were involved. Afterwards, we were invited by a pharma company to join a study on this other vaccine, mainly trying to address and assess how adults reacted to vaccination. How was the stage, how was the performance of vaccination among older people and adults, because we already knew that during childhood everyone sticks to the vaccination program, and then when you're adult you forget about it. So we are now advocating for having other vaccines included in the national plan for vaccination, so that, for instance, I'm talking about the vaccine for herpes zoster. But afterwards, and this is a kind of snowball, afterwards we were also invited to be part by other pharma industry of this group that is working on having vaccination or immunization for immunocompromised patients at the European level. So this is a kind of taking the opportunity, and then as a snowball, things grow. So you get to advocate at different levels, at the national level, going to European level, back to national level, and you do the best you can. Then, of course, we are also advocating regarding clinical trials. And here I have, and research. We have two different, and regarding the roles and concepts of patients, we have patient experts and patient research partners. So, for instance, to provide you, some of you know Ana Vieira, which is also a board member of AGORA. She advocates a lot for clinical trials regarding children and research regarding children. While me, as a patient expert and Upati fellow and so on, my main advocacy goal is to promote the inclusion of patient experts and patients' representatives in research and in the start of research. So we advocate together, but in different, with different goals. This is some of the examples I have to share with you, and I will be available for any questions. And believe me, I don't think I'm the most, let's say, expert in the better expert in advocacy. We have other people in the room. They are probably more. That are probably better. It's just brought my experience from my organization, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Elsa. Any questions? I think, Elsa, that you outlined some really simple steps on how to go about advocacy. And from your example that you met that MP who later became the minister, it means that as patient advocates, we need to network and always try to meet people, because you never know whom you will have to approach at a certain point.
Yes, that's very interesting. The other good example I have, if you remember the conference we had in Lisbon in the Assembly of Republic last year, when the conference of AGORA was in Lisbon, one of the invited speakers, when I was greeting him, is from another department from the Ministry of Health. he came to me and said, "Oh, I attended that conference that you organized in the Assembly of Republics, so they know."
Yeah.
And I was so impressed because I could not remember him, but he came to me and made a statement. He made a point to say to me that he was there, so he attended. So this is the way you promote. You need to be a PR.
Exactly.
But you need to study quite well. I also have other bad examples. Some years ago, we were also invited to have this demonstration or activity with the gloves and so on, and also in the Assembly of Republic for the politicians who were passing by. And we realized we were not briefed properly. There were several patient organizations there. And we realized that from the 200 and something politicians there, we only knew like 10. So people were passing by, unless they were most known people, we didn't know if it was a politician, if it was a secretariat, cleaning lady, whatever. So if you're going to do this, you need a dedicated person and you need to study.
Yeah.
You need to know the people, you need to know the ground. And this is the main lesson to be taken. Otherwise, if you just go along, but sometimes it doesn't work that well.
Thank you very much, Elsa.
Thank you.
Now it's very quickly.
Last May, we had the annual week of RMDs in Cyprus, and it was about RMDs and work. So we invited the Minister of Labour to come on our conference and so on. And he came, and while he was addressing the conference, he told us that his mother has RMD, and he was very willing to support us and help us. And he came on everything we done in the week. So all the media started showing us every day, every night we were on the news, every night because of him. So sometimes it's also on the people, that the policy makers, that they are willing to help us.
Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Neil Bettridge, who is the representative of GAFPA, the director of the European Alliance of Patient Access, GAFPA-EAFPA, and he's going to talk on clinical trials and the patient journey, experiences and outcome. Neil.
Thank you very much, Susie, and hello everybody, and thank you, Andrea and the team, for inviting me and us from AGORA to be with you again. You'd have to have a very hard heart not to feel some sympathy for me and Boriana now, because we stand between you and lunch after a wonderful but very intensive conference. We know that. But hang on in there. You know, RMD patients are famous for being tenacious, so you can do it, keep with it. The aim of this presentation, I'll introduce myself in a moment, but the aim of this presentation is to look at clinical trials in a way that I hope connects with what Elsa has just said, actually, about how patient involvement and advocacy is so important to getting to a better place with clinical trials. So that's the aim. My name's Neil Bettridge. As Susie says, I'm representing the European Alliance for Patient Access, which is the European division of the Global Alliance for Patient Access. But my personal journey with RMD started several decades ago when I was a little boy and had juvenile arthritis that affected me quite significantly then. Professionally, I've been lucky enough to work in the UK for the patient group there, Arthritis Care, and then with EULAR, where I met so many of you over the last 20 years as formerly the vice president there, and helping them to establish advocacy. But today, very much want to connect with the title of our session on shared decision making, and really building on that, highlight the difference between person-centered care and disease-centered care. And just as quite rightly in medicine, at the level of molecules, we are now talking about personalized medicine, so too should we be more and more individualizing care and engaging patients in their own care going forward. But of course, patients need tools for the job, and very often that's information. And when we look at clinical trials, we'll see that information is an important issue that can be a barrier to a better outcome. So very briefly, GAFPA I mentioned already, it's an international, not-for-profit platform. The central office is in Washington, D.C. It was running in the US, promoting advocacy involving patients and healthcare professionals for many years. And I stood down as CEO of the UK patient group just as the time of the executive director looking to establish a European organisation building on the success in the US. So it was lucky, good timing. I met the executive director just when I was working independently. And so I established, with their support, the European Alliance. And since then, we've been doing these things, which is bringing together stakeholders, so principally and most importantly, patient advocates, alongside healthcare professionals, looking to see how we can help promote things which change policy for the better. And for the better means the right patient getting the right treatment and support, including self-management, at the right time. And we do this with policy discussions, roundtable events. Usually I will facilitate it. We'll produce a report and share it. Many of you have participated in these already. We'll make sure everyone's happy with the report. We'll publish it. And we'll say, right, guys, that's the agenda. We've all agreed this is the problem to better care. What are we going to do about it? How can we support you as the experts to do something about this? And usually that means helping the stakeholders, the real experts like yourselves, by us developing materials like infographics and policy discussion, policy materials, etc. And really, through all of this, we're just trying to get better outcomes and better experience, just as the title of my presentation today highlights. And it is genuinely global. It isn't just the US and Europe. This stuff goes on all over the world. So getting onto clinical trials specifically then, for me and for us, it's just one of the barriers that stops patients getting the right care at the right time. I won't go through the others on the slide. You know them already. You know, for example, some people with osteoarthritis will delay before seeking help. They think, oh, it's just aches and pains. I'm getting a bit older. That delay can make things complicated and worse later. We know there is stigma attached to some of our RMDs, which can affect delay and create delays to lots of issues. But the one I want to focus on today is clinical trials. And I just want to highlight the issues as we see them and to see whether you agree. And if you agree, at the end, I'm going to make you an offer of a free resource and also give you an invitation to get involved if you want to. It won't cost you anything apart from a little bit of your time. But if it's an issue that's important to you, let's look at doing something collectively to raise our voice. These figures on the right, I'm not expecting you to read all that. I'm going to talk about the issues. But there is a big issue about enrolling patients in clinical trials. I'll explain that in a moment. But also really interesting, this survey that showed that 40% of adults who are asked if they understood what clinical trials are and how they operated said no. And actually, after having it explained, 32% said they would be happy to consider getting involved. So already we've got an awareness issue. But in all of this, there's some good news. There are an enormous amount of studies taking place. And, you know, we all know there are lots of unmet needs in rare diseases, but also in common diseases like many RMDs. And there is a lot of money going into this, at least 150 billion euros, we think. But is that money producing good value? And if not, why not? And if not, what can we do about that? And of course there is success, but maybe it depends how you define success. 2022, the EMA approved another 89 new therapies. So on the one hand, great, that's 89 times better than just one, right? But on the other hand, if you look at the number of studies, is that a fair and reasonable proportion? That's maybe debatable. Enrollment. When I first saw this statistic, I was pretty shocked that 55%, over half of studies, terminate because of enrollment, because people can't get enough patients. There's so much demand for new medicines to address unmet needs, and yet patients are not getting involved in sufficient numbers for this to happen effectively. And it's not patients' fault. That's definitely a view I think we can justify. And even before trials get going, there's a delay in them starting for the same reason that 80% can't get enough patients quickly enough for the trials to start. And these trials are really, really expensive. Millions are being spent every day designing, organising and trying to deliver them. It's a big, big issue. So maybe this is, certainly for me, I think one of the most important slides I'd like to offer you today, because it highlights some of the things which we think we should be working on together going forward. And one certainly is lack of awareness. If clinicians and patients aren't aware of what's available, then the things available are not going to be used or not going to be well used. Often there's a failure of healthcare professionals themselves to engage in trials, and also, as I mentioned, a failure to recruit participants from minority communities. We need diversity in clinical trials in order for them to be effective. It's ethically the right thing to do to get the right proportion around gender and ethnic minority, but in practical terms, too, it makes a big difference to optimising the outcomes for patients. The costs of all this to patients is very, very high sometimes, and that can be a barrier to participation. And there's also a perception of risk. Now, we know that trials will, as expert patients, we know that trials only go ahead after stringent safety considerations, but the general public will, of course, naturally be quite suspicious. So if that isn't well explained, then, of course, some people are going to say, do I want to risk my own body and health with something that is not yet approved? Understandable that this can be a barrier. And we ask a lot of patients sometimes to give up time, to go through a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork in order to participate. Can we not improve the system in that way? We kind of know who the stakeholders are, the investors, mostly from life science, biotech, pharma, etc. We know as patient representatives the importance of, again, patient-centred research. The providers, there are tens of thousands already involved, researchers, healthcare professionals, but probably, maybe, almost certainly we need more. But in all of this, the people who can really make change happen, and exactly in line with what Elsa has just said, are the policymakers. And as one of the main things any advocate has to think about in advance, as Elsa's illustrated, is being clear about the ask. If you think policymakers can be doing something different, then it's important to be as specific as possible in telling them what they can do differently and better. So I'm going to try and suggest what the answer to that question is in the context of clinical trials. So, I mentioned that patients often find it confusing. I'm sure you, either personally or through your groups, will have heard this many times, that patients trying to understand what's out there, how it works, is difficult, it's confusing, it can be complicated. So let's make it as easy as possible for patients to do this. It should be as easy as, booking a cinema ticket. You go online, you find what you need, there's some information, you decide if you want to take action. And maybe, though, as you're looking online, you've got questions. So if healthcare systems had somebody, it doesn't need to be an expensive doctor, but somebody who could help patients to navigate, to answer their questions about what's involved and what they have to do, that could be a low-cost solution that would really help more patients at least consider getting involved in clinical trials. So really we're looking at simplification here, including the process of actually enrolling, minimising the bureaucracy without losing any of the important safety or ethical considerations, obviously. And if some people can't do it because they lose money from work, if they take time, well, isn't it going to be worth it? I mean, millions and billions are being spent to give them just enough money to compensate them for their time. Surely that's a low-cost solution. A few more suggestions about what we think policymakers can do, and I'd love to hear your views at the end and afterwards. And this is actually moving from the patients to the healthcare professionals themselves and empowering them as well. They're probably not, most of the time, deliberately withholding information. A lot of the time, they are simply not aware or not thinking about looking to see if there might be clinical trials happening in their area which might be of benefit to the patient sitting in front of them. So let's make that easier through integrating into their, what it's like you're going to see the doctor, they're looking at the computer as much as they're looking at you. Let's get some nice up-to-date software there, some technology that helps them very easily access information about relevant trials to discuss that with the patient and have that shared decision-making conversation. And if that costs them, if that means slightly longer consultations, again, it would be relatively low levels of money to compensate them to make sure this happens, because this happening is very important. And also establish structures that incentivize. I mean, I think we probably all know, especially with general practitioners, family doctors, they have a difficult job, it's hard to be a generalist, lots and lots of patients, lots of demand, but actually sometimes for those reasons they need a financial incentive to do the extra one or two things. So again, if that's going to improve behaviours, let's consider it surely. And I mentioned diversity earlier. We certainly, in many countries, I know certainly home in the UK, we saw the importance and the issue of diversity highlighted during COVID, where so many people from ethnic minority groups in particular, as well as older and immunocompromised people, were especially vulnerable. And initially there were questions, is this a genetic thing, is this intrinsic to racial issues? Or is it to do with socio-economic issues? And a big part of the answer to that was it's actually the socio-economic side of it, where some groups are disproportionately represented in low-paid jobs versus higher-paid jobs. So we must make sure that trials are not only attracting participants who are quite well off, white, middle class, etc., etc. Let's get that balance of gender and ethnicity, etc., right. And if we believe that's an important issue, there needs to be some resource put into that to attract people, not only from the general public, but from those groups, to explain what's involved for them specifically, to make it easier to attract people who will give us this this good balance. And that way, I think we can begin to address some of those inequalities. A couple more suggestions around what we think policymakers can do. And it's very simply, at the top, not very simply, at the high level, making this more of a priority. That's going to mean more investment in clinical trials research. Companies, I'm sure you've heard many companies will say they will be prepared to do that as long as they could guarantee the integrity of the structures, around their intellectual property, around the safeguarding. Investing is a risk, and we need to make sure that there's a fair and equitable landscape in which investors can take those risks. And, promote greater awareness through public campaigns around the importance of and the need for more patient engagement and more understanding of what's involved in clinical trials.
3 minutes, Neil.
Okay. Last few slides. So in all of this, I just really want to ask the question, who is involved in this? And let's see if this woman on the screen can begin to tell us. It might be a bit quiet.
Your daughter, your grandpa, your next door neighbor, first grade teacher, your neighborhood librarian, your high school fronting, your coworker, your boss, your member of Congress, your
trials need participants.
They need you.
They need all of us. So learn more.
Learn more about clinical trials.
Think you get the message? Anyway, they agree with me, right? So that's a start. So, right. If I can move the slide on. Yeah, so I just want to finish now quickly with some information, the offer and the invitation to connect around GAFPA's new clinical trials awareness and access initiative. Difficult even for a British speaker. We've already started doing this. This campaign was kicked off at EULAR last year. Many of you were there. Anna Vieira indeed presented her experiences, and we presented at other medical congresses like cardiology and neurology too. And at the moment, we are developing similar discussions, including, for example, this one today, presentations and discussions on this topic. We want to hear views. We'll be developing materials based on what people tell us in order to raise awareness of the issue generally. So I'm going quickly now to finish. And this is going to continue. This isn't a short-term thing. It's a big issue. It needs to run for years to be effective. So we want to work in different parts of the world, but in Europe we want to work with stakeholders like yourselves across many disease states to see what can be done to work together to improve access to clinical trials and awareness. And so the last couple of things, we've just developed some new fast facts on this. One of the key issues in the European Union at the moment is around the EU's review of the pharmaceutical legislation. We think there may be some unintended consequences on clinical trials there, so we want that debate to go on. And in order to support that debate, we are hosting a webinar on the 21st of September in the afternoon. I'll be moderating that. We have 3 policy experts looking at this issue from different perspectives, including the patient perspective. It's an hour. Please join if you can, and maybe I can put Andrea on the spot and ask if this link could be circulated to everybody in the next week or so for those who wish to join. In other words, if you think everything I've said, the issues are important and relevant to you, and you'd like to participate, contribute, raise your voice, then this is one way we can do it, but there'll be many other ways as well going forward. So thank you very much.
We have time for a question. Is there a question? I have a question then. Do the organizers of clinical trials, the initiators, do they give any incentive to the patients to participate? Maybe remuneration or, I don't know, for their time spent there? Is there something?
I mean, one of the reasons I majored on what policymakers can do is that sort of thing shouldn't be left, in my opinion, to the individuals who are running each trial, because there are so many trials. We need a system change that means things which are fair and reasonable and ethical and practical are done optimally in order to address all of these issues. So, for example, I specifically said, we hear patients say, I wanted to get involved in a trial, but I couldn't. I had to take time off work. My employer wouldn't compensate me, so they don't participate. Yeah. So there does need to be a system that makes sure that happens in a consistent way. That's one of the things we're calling for.
I think it's important.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Thank you, Neil.
Okay, thank you very much.
And now our last speaker for the day, Boriana Boteva, who is the president of the Bulgarian organization. And she's going to talk about opportunities through the EULAR Knowledge Transfer Program.
Thank you, everybody. I had to take a picture of Susie and Neil. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm here to talk about the EULAR Knowledge Transfer Program. these days, Andri is the leader of the working group. I used to be the leader of the working group in previous years. So if I miss something, I hope Andri will help me. First of all, I don't know if everybody know about EULAR. EULAR is the European Alliance of Association for Rheumatology. It is a non-profit organization that represents people with rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases, health professionals in rheumatology, rheumatologists, and Scientific Society of Rheumatology of all the European nations. EULAR aims to support EULAR para-member organizations to become stronger and innovative together so they can better serve the needs of people with rheumatic diseases across Europe. The EULAR Knowledge Transfer Program, this is a grant program for national para organizations designed to improve and apply skills by learning from the expertise of other organizations in the new EULAR network. The EULAR Knowledge Transfer Program helps organizations to develop professional capacities and also stimulates innovation, knowledge, and experience exchange between PARE organizations. PARE, I didn't mention, most of you know, but I will explain, is the people with arthritis and rheumatism in Europe, and this is the patient part of EULAR, let's say. I've shown here the web page that you can find more information about the EULAR PARE Knowledge Transfer Program. I will say some words. Who is eligible to apply for this program? The program is open for applications to national PARE organizations and for the supporting member organizations. National PARE organizations which are a member of PARE. The supporting member organization, for example, AGORA is a supporting member organization of EULAR PARE. Preference is given to project applications which actively involve people with rheumatic diseases. By successfully completing a project, your organization will have strengthened its partnership with the partner organization or organizations, will learn how to implement the lessons learned and how to achieve the aims and objectives of the project, will be able to apply the gained knowledge in the organization on national level or in different branches if you have branches of your organization, and will be able to teach the gained knowledge to other members. As I said, this is a program that gives financial grants. The total amount available for this program is 15,000 euro, and the maximum of a grant awarded to a project is the half of it. Allowance for the teaching organization is 500 euro. What is the process? The applying organization is the learning organization, and there is a teaching organization or partner organization. The role of the applying organization is to focus and identify different areas that needs to be improved, to implement the learned lessons, the gained knowledge, and to achieve the aims and objectives set out in the application. The role of the partner organization is to help the applying organization to achieve the goals by sharing their knowledge and experience, and to plan the program together with the applying organization for the visit and for the whole process. The decision process is taken by a jury. It consists of 6 members of the Knowledge Transfer Working Group and up to 2 members from another committee, for example, health professionals and EMUNET committee. They are part of EULAR also. There are standby jury members if there is a conflict of interest, the PARE committee chair and the EULAR vice president representing PARE. What are the criteria? Need and benefits for the PARE organizations and for people with RMDs, partnership and cooperation between organizations, feasibility of budget, logistic, and so on, evaluation and sustainability, added value, dissemination, possibility for adapting by other organizations. For example, some project, they can be broadened up to other organizations that can implement or translate some materials or whatever. The successful applications, upon notice of the start of the project, ULAR pays 70% of the grant. The project must be completed in 12 months, and after sending financial reports and the activity report, ULAR pays the other 30% of the grant. The applying organization have to send some reports. The organization is required to submit the final report to the ULAR office, consisting of the following: narrative report, this is the report of all actions that have been done, and also financial report. And the organization shall be asked to present a poster at the PARE conference for this project that they completed. Okay, I didn't mention here the deadlines because you can see the deadlines at the website I've mentioned, the ULAR website where you find this section for the knowledge transfer program. But this year, the PARE committee, when we discussed what is the situation with applications, why the working group receives only few applications from a few countries, namely CYPLAR or as a teaching organization, and other organizations, for example, Sweden. We receive applications from those countries I mentioned, usually. That's why the PARE committee decided to skip this year and to review, to postpone, not to send a call for applications, to review the past projects and to investigate the needs of the organizations with the aim to give better opportunities for organizations in the future. If you have any questions, you can ask me now and Andri, and of course send your questions to Betka, who is the Secretariat support for this program. Here are some successful projects that you can see again on the web page. For example, Spain, Germany, the learning organization was Spain, the teaching organization was Germany, and you can see that the title of the project, Establishing a Patient Research and Medical Education Partner Network in Spain. We had also Israel and Malta. They applied under the AGORA, as members of AGORA, because members of AGORA, they can apply for the knowledge transfer program. And this is the title, In Our Hands, Self-Management Course. We had also Serbia and Sweden. Serbia was the learning, Sweden the teaching organization, experience exchange, fundraising, and patient expert program. My organization also applied, 10 years ago. And CYPLAR was the teaching organization. We wanted to know how to establish how to make our organization more professional, and we talked with Marius at that moment, and we organized this exchange under the knowledge transfer program. So this is an opportunity for organizations to exchange knowledge and to learn from more experienced ones, and because ULAR gives this financial grant, so this is really a great opportunity, because I know that our organization, the southern ones, we are not having these funds that the others from other parts of Europe have. So this is a great opportunity for your organizations.
Thank you, Mariana. Any questions on the knowledge transfer program? No? No? Thank you.
Mikhail.
Comment, question, I don't know. How do you spread the news about the options this KTV?
On the website there is a video that we
But on the website is not anyone
Yes.
inside. How
And
can members
at-
of AGORA or
At the Euler Pare conference, we also talked about the knowledge transfer program, and between us, because when we applied our organization, we talked with Marios. During networking events or so on.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What Michal wants to know is how are we able to find out what other organizations are doing so we can align to exchange?
Andre-
Exchange also the best practice fair during the
Yes,
conference.
yes, at the Pare conference.
Yes, but in addition, that's the reason that we skip this year in order to find ways to find out what the expertise of each member organization in easy words is what can they offer to the other members. So we are trying with the help also of the CEO subcommittee to find and to have a list of, for example, what Cyprus can offer, and etc. all the member organizations, and we will make a list in order to disseminate to others and to know. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Andre, can I add also, if you are interested which organization is doing what, you can see the reports. They're on the website, and then you just... Yes, not all, but...
The other way is that if you have a need, you can contact to Betka, and Betka will send an email to all patient organizations and ask who are willing and can contribute on this.
And first of all, you have to identify your needs, and then I know that you can find a way to find the teaching organization.
Okay.
Because I heard about CO group, this problem about the knowledge transfer. This problem about the knowledge transfer program was pointed out in the ULAR. So we said that through the CO working group, which is all the members of ULAR, will go to inform them in order to inform their own countries and the associations. This is going to be done as promotion of knowledge transfer program, and after 1 year, because they have to see again how they're going to work. This was the problem. Okay?
Yeah, and I can add that when I was leading the group, we were organizing, I think, 2 webinars that we explained how to apply and so on, and ask questions together with Betka.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we've come to an end, and I will now ask Igor and Andriy to close the conference.
So, like all the things that are good, they have very short existence. We come to the end of our conference. We have first. I want to say some logistic things. Just a minute. I lost my paper. Give me a minute, sorry. Sorry about this. After we finish, we will make a photo for our group, so don't leave the room, except if you don't want to be part of the photo. Click our conference website to complete an evaluation form that we have there. At the end, after the photo, you can pass through the registration desk to take a gift that RAM has for you, and Agora, of course. And this evening at 6:30, we will meet at the lobby area to go for a short tour of the city center and for dinner. So dress comfortably to be able to walk. Okay, this is where the logistics. So we come to the end, as I said, Igor. It was really a very interesting conference with very important topics for our organizations. We need to work all year round to put our efforts to make our organizations better of course for our patient needs, and to give a better patient life. But you know that the conferences never stop working, so I would like first to listen Marivella. What do you think?
I'm agreed.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would like to invite Mary to talk us about Malta, because next year we will be in Malta. And we will have our conference there, as AGORA started there from 2011. So we need to go back to see if Malta changed.
Yes.
So we can hear you, Mary.
Yes. نبدأ. Just a presentation. لا مش دي. Yes.
Just a second. Maybe I sit down here.
You have your personal photography group. A special.
Krista تكبروا ما هذا ماشي. No. Off. لا سيب نستنقع على هناك زوم لا ما نستاش لا أشتكي حتكون فيك أمور. It is.
It's wording.
I had a zoom and I want to remove it. That's it.
Ma nafx kif ħatara, vera.
You can't see it.
Ċali fejn.
Press this one too.
I need to. No, I want to expand it a
To
bit,
expand
enlarge
it a
it.
bit.
No, it's here. Look how it looks there.
All right, I have to use it, yeah. So għamillu mill-bidu. So, excuse me for all this, but it's okay. Thank you. So, we are ARAM, Arthritis of Association. I'm the president, Mary Vella. Sina is the vice president. And the next slide, Sina. So, about us. Arthritis was established in 2007. And on the initiative of the Professor Carmel Malia and the specialist nurse of rheumatology. It was at that time that the association that we felt there were a lot of patients suffering from RA, and Professor Malia approached me to be the president. This was 16 years ago, so since then, it's small. ARAM was then officially launched during World Arthritis Day on the 11th August 2007 by the former Minister of Health, Dr. Luis de AGORA. Since then, World Arthritis Day continued to be our yearly highlight as a campaign for people suffering from RMDs. ARAM's goal was to educate patients on their own disease and learning how to live a good quality of life on a daily basis. In 2009, ARAM became a member of the European League Against Onvular, which aims to promote, stimulate, and support research. In June 2010, the association became officially registered as the NGO with the Commissioner of Voluntary Organization Office, which became mandatory later in 2018. This is important because if you're not registered with the office, you can't apply for projects. But this year we applied and we got 2 projects. One is called Small Initiative Scheme and the other is called VOPS, for Voluntary Organization. It's a bigger project. This was a further step for ARAM to be better its position and opportunities in treatment and rehabilitation of rheumatic diseases. In consequence to this, ARAM became a member also to EULAR PARA, people with arthritis and rheumatism in Europe. ARAM also joined forces in 2010 with other southern countries to form the AGORA platform, which then inaugurated in Malta in 2011. Throughout the years, the association continued to progress by recruiting new skilled members. Founders are always pivotal to guide and support the executive committee through their years of experience. Through these 16 years, it wasn't so easy because I always tried to recruit in the committee new skills. At first, I had members that had no skills. But anyway, this is the present committee. This photo on the left is at the URIM committee when I first met Dr. Roberta Metsola. I've been liaising with her for a year, and then she invited me at the URIM commission and then I collaborated with EULAR, where we started to collaborating with Dr. Metsola and to campaign for us for arthritis people. There is the committee. On the left is Sina, me, and there is the minister, Giulia Portelli, who is the present minister for disabled people. Then the secretary, she's Jane Giudice. And during COVID, we managed to have Yacoda Beltrani, who is representing the young people. And on the right, we have Sebastian. Yes, who everybody knows him. ARAM is a member also on national and international level. On national level, we are members with Malta Health Network. We form part of UPATI, SIP, EPF, European Patient Forum, Commission for the Rights of Patients for Disability, and Malta for Federation of Organization Persons with Disability, which we became members just recently. On international level with EURA and with AGORA. Our goal is to provide more comprehensive information and understanding regarding all forms or MMD by organizing educational events to create awareness of understanding and acceptance of the set conditions, to represent the national interest of the members by listening and supporting to them. On daily basis, I receive a lot of telephone calls by patients, either to refer them to patients and how I could guide them on their own disease. I always encourage them to take the first steps, to take the self-management course, because I think it's very compulsory. To urge authorities to give the due consideration and help where needed to association and its members, to encourage further medical research in the field of latest treatments regarding these conditions. This will also promote capacity building within the executive members of the committee to organize and generate necessary funds to promote the association. Activities. The activities we do every year are the annual general meeting. We attend the EURA and the AGORA congresses. Now we are going to launch AGORA in Malta, and the self-management. The self-management training was provided by AGORA, which was then later introduced to Malta. ARAM collaborates with the Health Promotion and Disease Directorate to provide further training on self-management, on chronic diseases, and offered it free of charge through government as a project to all persons suffering from chronic diseases. Activities, transfer of knowledge. The first experience of transfer of knowledge we had was with Israel in 2019. Sharing the self-management course, it was a huge success, and then it was featured in the Euler newspaper. Recently, we collaborate with a similar organization based in Cyprus on our it was our second transfer of knowledge, to share their knowledge and experience to train patient experts. It was finalized this year, and it proved to be very successful and important for referral to patients with early diagnosis. World Arthritis Day 2019, we held our conference at the Parliament in Malta, promoting invisible disability. In 2020, virtual treating, it was virtual because during COVID, treating autoimmune diseases during COVID, including both GPs and patient perspectives. In 2021, after COVID, not all disability and visible disability about courage and work. In 2022, issues and possibility solution to be better future by person with RMD. We are sure that AGORA can be the pivot for other opportunities for its members' countries. Activities. This was a presentation of certificates for the new self-management tutors. This was part of the funds that we took this year to train new members to train self-management. We had about 6 patients, and we gave them the certificates. This was a radio interview where we were promoting the self-management to GPs to promote it more to their patients, to tell them that it's a must that they should take the self-management course. Where AGORA was born. For our association, again, we wish to host and participate in this conference is to further establish ARAM as an international level and acknowledge its true place with other associations. This will further provide a platform for our members to showcase their commitment towards ARAM and wider afield. It will also honor both existing and future members of this association. By hosting this conference in Malta, we will again attract the attention of the state and relevant ministers to understand the importance of giving their full attention to persons with RMDs and further improve the position of persons living with a chronic condition both at national and international level. Having been central in the launch of AGORA in 2010 and having held a virtual conference in 2021 during COVID period, this conference will be of particular importance to us for the purpose of exchanging knowledge and experience, especially when it comes to the provision of a better quality of life, recognition, improvement of treatment, prevention and rehabilitation of persons living with RMDs. Furthermore, in this way, Malta will be promoted through ARAM's input. We will also be very happy to share the beauty of our little island, which, although small in the size, has a big heart and a welcome to all. We also share with you how much the state is investing in further developing the NGO sector by promoting and supporting NGOs, keeping in the mind the central role that persons with chronic conditions play. This is about improving our lives. It will be an opportunity to revive the memories, to celebrate the launch and inception of AGORA in 2010 in Malta. We want to create more awareness and advocate more on RMDs, keeping our focus on policy matters and MEPs. Now you're going to see a bit of view of Malta. We want to thank you to your, we welcome you all in Malta next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and we look forward to be there next year.
Thank you.
So, Igor, do you want to comment anything?
About Malta?
About Malta?
About everything.
About here. Yeah.
Just a little comment. It is a great pleasure to be the host of this conference and a part. And my also members is very for them is very exciting. Is something to acknowledge something new, and I hope that we are a good host. We try everything what can I do to be good, and see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to say some thank you. First of all, a big thanks to the speakers that they make the effort to come here to share with us their expertise. And I would like to make a special thanks to our task force for the conference. The task force is Mikal, Boriana, Sina, Stalo, Kadi, if I forgot somebody, sorry, Sebastian,
Me
yeah,
and you.
and Igor, of course.
Me and you.
So a big clap for them. Thank you all. A big thanks to Kadi and Dimitris, our secretariat, that helps a lot and done a great job. And I would like to make a special thank to Danilo and Mira, because they hosted us more than we expect, and they helped us to make some logistics here in Podgorica and generally in Montenegro. So thank you guys. Thank you, Manga. And of course, a big thank you to Igor, because without him, we wouldn't be able to be here. He makes our conference something extraordinary for us, especially with the dancers yesterday night. Okay.
I try everything what I can do.
Yeah, and with his appearance yesterday night. So thank you. You make everything for us easy, and we know that we can count on you for next years also. And
Thank you.
We would like to give you a small present.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
this is a
Thank you.
present, and for Ram,
Thank you so
special
much.
thanks. So you have
Something.
to carry this with you.
Thank you. This is something special for us, and thank you so much. It's great and honor to be part of this family, and we continue to work the hard like this. And when I was yesterday, I said this is the 20 years of existing of our association, and this is some rewards and coming in now with this conference with you guys, and it's not be the same. Thank you so much, and thank you to be in Montenegro.
We have to say that you set the bar high for the next conferences.
Thank you so much.